All right, I think we will get started. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for participating in what is now our third open forum that is organized jointly by the Association of Academic Museums and Galleries, the AAMG, and the New England Museum Association, NEMA. I'm Juliette Bianco, the Anne and Ben Cohn Memorial Endowed Director of the Weatherspoon Art Museum at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and a member at large for professional development on the board of AAMG. I want to let you know that today's forum is being recorded, and thanks to suggestions from participants in November's forum, this event is also enabled by Zoom live captioning. If you'd like that option, just click on the CC in your toolbar at the bottom of the screen. First of all, if you are a member of both AAMG and NEMA, thank you so much. If your museum is a member of one, but not the other, please consider researching and recommending that your organization also join. Both AAMG and NEMA are committed to serving and connecting museum professionals, and together we can strengthen our museums and be catalysts for education, community, and social change. The first two forums that we jointly hosted last fall focused on the mission of academic museums during COVID-19 and new or revised exhibition and programming practices as the pandemic continued. We explored how our museums have chosen and been able to pivot on issues of audience engagement, access, inclusion, and collaboration, and the processes that we are setting up to enable the future. Today, a year into the pandemic, we are taking time to check in on ourselves and each other. We hope that in this hour, you'll have the opportunity to talk with your colleagues about staying on track, managing our work while participating in a changing socio-political, cultural, and economic environment. Where do we find inspiration and what can cause derailment? I'm very pleased to introduce our two facilitators, Carey Weber, the Frank and Clara Meditz Executive Director at Fairfield University Art Museum and Connecticut State Representative for AAMG, and Deborah Disston, Director, McIninch Art Gallery, Southern New Hampshire University, and PAG Coordinator for College and University Museums at NEMA. Thank you very much, and take it away, Carey and Debbie.
Thanks, Juliette.
Okay, so staying on track was the choice of the title for this gathering as a way to have a continuation of prior conversations related to how we are dealing in this pandemic environment. And I was very interested in having this open discussion to learn what other colleagues might be dealing with as their institutions, most likely, I'm assuming, are doing some extraordinary reevaluation of their mission, their business model, their financial model. And I know for me, while Southern New Hampshire University is going through enormous change in terms of their business model, it has often left myself and my colleagues in a quandary about this word pivot. Are we to pivot to follow in the direction of all these different ideas that the institution is moving towards? Or are we to do what we do best, managing our gallery or museum with the understanding that the mission and the direction of the larger institution is taking a turn in some way? So it's a fascinating subject because it sort of brings to the fore qualities of leadership, qualities of collaboration, qualities of listening and speaking up. So this is the kind of thing that I'd love people to feel comfortable sharing in your small groups, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that is experiencing this. And I do hope that if you are experiencing this challenge of staying on track while your institution is maybe pivoting in half a dozen different directions, you can talk about it further.
And we're going to keep the format similar to what we've done the last two times. If you were with us for those forums, we're going to, I'm going to say a few more words, and then we're going to break into small groups, 5 or 6 people. And what we found in the past is when we came back and tried to report out what happened in those small groups, it wasn't completely successful because there were too many people to get to all the groups. So we're going to make it optional, the reporting out. So if, you know, if something comes up in your group that you find fascinating, you think that would be interesting to share with the larger group, please make a note of it and plan to share it with us at the end, so we can all learn from what you learned in your smaller conversations. So we'll come back together at 4:45 for 15 minutes of just summing up and sharing those thoughts. The topic to me, staying on track in this time of COVID, has slightly different meaning because my university isn't really in the same place that Debbie's is. And it means to me more like, you know, we all, I hate the word, but we all pivoted. I think most of us did anyway. We did a big pivot, and that's taken a lot of time and energy, and just, you know, it's different than the way we used to work. So reminding myself to be looking at our infrastructure, even though no one's traveling through our doors, except for students and faculty and staff, to be taking the time to do the anti-racist work that we want to be doing, to take the time to look at our strategic plan, which for us is something we need to be working on soon. Things like that, things that when we are so busy just trying to create content and stay engaged with our communities, that we don't forget to do the other things that we need to be doing. So with that, I think we will break into small groups to continue the conversation, and look forward to seeing you all back here at 4:45 to share what we've talked about.
Okay, so I'm going to break everybody into groups. I'm just going to assign automatically, but Debbie's going to stay in this main room for a recording session. So once you get into your rooms, wait just a minute. I'm going to pull a few people back into the main room to have a conversation with Debbie. I think that'll be the easiest way to do this. So that way we still have some kind of recorded content to share out. Okay. You'll be getting something on your screen in just a second. Make sure you click. There we go. Create. Open all rooms. So Debbie, just don't click on yours. And everybody will slowly but surely. We're going to move him here. What else I have here? Main session. Okay, how many do we have in this main session?
I see 5.
Okay, so let's.
Oh, no, there's 6. There's 6.
Okay, let's stick with that then for now. Okay, I'm going to go back to muting myself.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. How are we all doing?
So far, so good.
Well, I don't have a specific intention for this group. If anyone would like to start, if you have some ideas right off the top of your head that you want to share, go ahead.
You know, the first thing that jumped to my mind as you were talking was you talked about your mission, which has always been a really important word for me. We've been fortunate at Middlebury that we were in the process of going through reaccreditation, or we had just before COVID hit, we had applied for, we sent in all of our self-study stuff for reaccreditation. We were due to have a site visit in April of 2020, and that got scrapped, of course, because no one can come on campus. So we're now scheduled yet a year later to do this virtually. But in the meantime, we've been able to focus on the things that we need to share with AAM for reaccreditation. And one of them is a strategic plan. We've had, I won't go into the details, but in the past, our strategic plan has been, it's horrible. It's just not a strategic plan. So it gave us a chance to really rethink how we plan strategically, and to update this document so that it's a 3-year rolling strategic plan, and it has to be submitted every year to the Board of Trustees for approval. And it gives us an opportunity to make sure that the administration that the college still buys into what our mission is and how our mission supports the college's mission, even though a lot is changing. So that's been a great way to formalize, and I highly recommend, if you have a chance to, if you're working from home and you have time in your hands, work on a strategic plan and get it approved by the people to whom you report in the administration. It's a great way to get buy-in from a higher level. We've been historically a lower priority for our parent institution, and through this process, they can really work with us and ensure that going forward, what we're doing is what will serve the college best.
Yeah. Yeah. And having a plan like that, just focusing on any plan, is so healthy for the psyche too.
Yeah. And it gets them to commit to, it gives them the opportunity to say, this point over here, maybe we don't want you to do that just yet. But it does give them a chance to commit to supporting what we're trying to do. And it fosters, further conversation. It also gets them to commit funds where they're able to.
Yeah. I think we have 3 other people here, but I only see pictures. Is Leah here?
I am. Yep. Sorry, I have a post-school 5th grader running around in the background. So, yeah, it's been really interesting for us because we have a gallery and collection model, but we don't have a museum. And so I'm at Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts.
Right. I've been there. You have a very nice gallery space.
Yes. And we have a part-time gallery director, and then I'm a faculty member, and half of my role is the collection. So we had to pivot pretty quickly to accommodate the classes that were planning to use the collection and the galleries last spring. And then in the fall, of course, we knew in advance, so we were able to handle that. And there were some really innovative ways that faculty used the collection. One of our first year seminars, which was team taught, they actually had students go around campus to identify works that were on long-term display. And it was a first year course focused on modernism. So the students had to react to the work and tie it to themes in the course, which I thought worked really well. And we've tried to keep our work study students involved, which has been a bit of a challenge, in part because we have a lot of work study students, and when the collection was not able to host people in person, that was challenging. But we've also had some successes there as well. And we were also asked to do a talk about the collection for a group of alumni. And that was very successful because it resulted in some gifts of both artwork and funds to support the collection, which was really unexpected and wonderful.
So you've been face-to-face teaching all year?
It's a hybrid model. So faculty are allowed to choose if they want to teach remotely or hybrid, meaning that there's a limited number of students in the classroom, and if you're face-to-face, it's based on the classroom capacity, but then there are almost always students who are participating remotely as well. Right. So for collection visits, it has been video tours of the collection, video engagement with specific objects, and then we've made use of cases to display objects temporarily so faculty could bring students in small groups, social distance with masks to engage with the collection.
So staying on track for you would be doing all the work you've been doing with your collection to make sure it's being utilized as strongly as possible, and have a variety of have a variety of ways that it can be used.
Yes, absolutely. And also making sure that the students, for many of them, it's part of their work study, and their work study is part of their financial aid package. So we want to try to keep them employed, but also the professional development that they get through working with the collection or galleries
Right.
is really critical as well.
That's fantastic. That's excellent. Terry, I see, since I can see you moving around there, would you like to introduce yourself and where you're from? And
Sure. Terry McNichol, I'm from New Jersey. I'm a former museum director, and now I do research. I've been an adjunct professor of Asian art history and watercolor studio for the past 30 years at community college and some university level. I'm always interested, my research centers around, because I send my students to museums, right? And I'm interested in what they're going to bring back. And Debbie, you and I have communicated, recently. But I was telling her that I changed the traditional research paper to a first person essay. And I really thought these were great examples of writing. So I started keeping a collection, and I have a 30-year collection. And after many years, I realized, no, there's something else going on. So I was intrigued by that. So that has really what has spurred my research in, this visceral embodied experience that they were having, because writing in the first person, right? It's coming from what they're feeling and, and their experience. So I was really, really interested in that. And that's why I stayed in this room too, because I was really, wanted to see, people that are in the museum, what are your issues now, particularly during COVID, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's, so Luann, are you there? Luann? I think her photo is there, but she's disappeared. Kathy Dixon, are you there? Catherine Hansen? Oh, Kathy Dixon, there you are. You popped around.
Hey,
Would
sorry
you-
to be late joining.
That's okay. Would you introduce yourself and what institution you're affiliated with, if any?
Sure, and I hope it's relevant. I'm at Emory University and I'm the exhibitions manager.
Great. Did you happen to miss the intro?
I did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we're just talking about the title of this gathering, this workshop, you might call it, is to discuss staying on track, how you stay focused with your work while we're going through this time of the pandemic, and your institution may or may not be going through some changes that are central to what you do. And if they are central to what you do, how do you stay on track with that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us in terms of managing exhibitions based on the library collections has been the loss of the physical spaces, because no one is coming into the building. So we have turned towards online exhibits. So we're, looking at how to get our staff up to speed to focus on that. Copyright concerns for, digital widespread use has become a major, stumbling block in some ways, having the resources to manage that concern now. And just sort of staying excited about physical exhibits that we hope to return to in the fall. So I don't know, we've sort of felt a little cast about, I think. There hasn't been the immediate pressure of developing those physical exhibits, but that's starting to ramp up again with anticipation of being back in the fall.
Okay, so staying on track for you is to come up with a new model of how you can continue your work while you are closed to the public and the university, I'm assuming? The students could not.
There are some students on campus, but very few. They're hoping for fall to be back on campus completely.
Okay, great. Is Catherine Hansen with us? I saw her name pop in.
So she just messaged me directly and she said that she's on a bus. So she can only listen. She can't chime in, but she's enjoying the conversation so far. At
Okay.
least I think she is.
And I think Luann is not with us. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what happened to Luann. Is there anyone else that has not spoken that I have not seen? Okay. All right, well, we can just keep having this conversation. I mean, I can share for myself at Southern New Hampshire University is going through a huge restructuring of their business model. And so I'm sure all of you have heard the term teach out when something is going to be closed, out of the curriculum or what have you. So that's what's happening at Southern New Hampshire University, is they are teaching out every single solitary academic program and service in the university. Not immediately, but the intent is to be everything that is now going to be new and different and innovative. And it's taken a huge amount of time to be a part of these committees and things that are kind of redefining what we do. And so for me, staying on track is staying focused on our mission, which is to deliver the exhibitions that we do that support the pedagogy within the school. We're completely closed. We're completely remote. So everything that we have had to do has been virtual exhibits, webinars, podcasts, YouTube videos, digital publications. So that is definitely staying on track, much to the point of what Douglas was talking about, having a plan to stay focused on the work that has to be done, to me, is staying on track. That you're, rather than being pulled in like a dozen different directions, because that's so easy to happen when you have this global conversation about reimagining the future of an institution. And it gets very stressful, very, very stressful. So to me, staying on track is choosing a path or a course that's going to keep my sanity and help me keep focused and calm, and so that I can listen and hear and understand what people are saying is going to be our future. So carry on with other ideas. Anything else that you're experiencing in your institution? If you're observing, is your senior leadership following different paths, or whatever you want to share.
I mean, we're certainly having discussions now across the library, and special collections in that area in terms of what will continue and what will stop. Online events will continue because we've seen how that reaches such a wider audience. So, what will be the model going forward? Probably some kind of hybrid model where there'll be physical events as well as, online. And so, will we ever get a budget back for food for physical events or not? I don't know. So some of those kinds of things, what will continue, what new things will continue, what new things would drop off, and space allocation. I'm hoping I might get some more storage space if people don't come back to the office in the previous numbers. That's, a pipe dream, but so yeah, we're looking at those kinds of things too.
Yeah. And our university is looking seriously at what jobs can be remote. There's a huge HR issue there's all sorts of legal implications to a lot of these decisions of changing the model, but that's definitely one of them, is allowing people to have that remote work experience if they wish to, and if it works within their department.
we've been told that, I mean, and you have to be approved to get back on campus. I mean, I can't imagine, I can do 100% of my job remotely. And so, I mean, I won't be back on campus in an office until, there is no more pandemic. I mean, it could be years. I'll be sitting in the same chair at my house. So yeah, they're being very careful with all of that. But to Kathy's point, we've done a lot of the same thing, pivoting to, actually I like the word pirouetting better. I forgot who used
Yeah.
it first, but pirouetting toward more digital content and focusing on really just engaging our public that way. We've been getting mail scores that are, in the 9.5 to 10, just getting lots of engagement regularly, getting, these open rates in the 40s and 50%, and lots of click-throughs. So people are hungry for artistic content. We've had to think about how we package that. But one of the things that we've said is going forward, assuming that we get back to, and the hope is this summer we'll be able to open perhaps to the general public. That any exhibitions we develop going forward, we develop them as mobile first, digital first, so that we're the first line of thinking is how can we present this in a digital space, with the hope that it also is in a physical space. But if for some reason there's another pandemic, more lockdowns, we can switch back to digital, without having lost revenue, or spend a lot of money on something that no one's going to actually see. So that's become a new directive, and that'll guide how we go forward.
Yeah, I think probably we could all say the same thing. I know for SNHU, part of their new business model will be to include more of a hybrid experience in the traditional undergraduate college. And then of course we have a massive online degree program. So for us to do both is really critical. Yeah. Catherine, are you still not able to speak to us? I guess not. Leah, do you have any more comments you want to share, or stories, or?
No, I think some of what's been said really resonates here as well. We have had our exhibitions are only open in person to people who are studying on campus and living on campus and working on campus. So for staff who are remote, or parents of students, or the artists themselves, they're not able to physically come to campus to see the exhibitions. And of course, the gallery capacity is significantly reduced. So instead, we've gone to virtual exhibitions openings, as well as making the exhibitions available using a software that's used apparently for real estate. It's called Matterport, but our gallery director adapted it to use in the galleries. So we had an exhibition opening that there were people from Iran and the Czech Republic and all over the world, artists who had sent in their work and who were able to participate virtually. And if it had been an in-person opening, they wouldn't have been able to be there, I don't think, even given how far they were. So that's been really positive, and I think we're looking to keep that going forward, kind of a hybrid in-person opening, but also virtual as well. We also implemented a new curriculum right when the pandemic the last fall was the first semester of the new curriculum. So working with that as well has been challenging, but also really inspiring too. And just trying to kind of plug ahead as best as we can given the circumstances.
Yeah. And where do you feel your school will be in the fall? Are they communicating about that, or what the next fiscal year will look like and the next academic year?
Yes, we've been really fortunate that the administration at Wheaton has been very transparent. We have our COVID dashboard has been very transparent and even been recognized in some of the media nationwide for how open the college is being about the situation. We are in person, and we actually had more students come back in the spring to be in person than we had in the fall, because I think they and their families were able to see how we were managing COVID, everyone who's physically on campus is getting tested twice a week. So there's a significant cost to that, but then the benefit is that we're able to track things really well. And we're hoping in the fall to be in person, but again, there may, like Douglas said, he can do his job from home indefinitely, and there may be some faculty and or staff who might want to focus more on a remote working environment, although we are very much a traditional quintessential residential liberal arts college. So we'll see how some of that plays out.
And how about Emory? Kathy, do they talk about what your next academic year will be like?
They do hope to have every students back on campus. And I think classes may have to still be socially distanced in some way, masks, that kind of thing, still, those concerns, but people back on campus completely. So what that looks like, I'm not sure.
What about the operating budgets that people have? Have you gotten to a budget time yet where you're working with if you work with a budget and have authority over that, are you having to negotiate that right now? Are you anticipating significant reduction in your budget for the next fiscal year?
We've had, when it came to fiscal year 21, our budget was reduced by 35%, our operating budget. The college made, they made a commitment they would keep all faculty and staff whole as far as salaries go. So there were certainly no raises, but they were not, they didn't cut anybody's salaries. There was some attrition, there was a hiring freeze, but salaries essentially remained the same, but our operating budget was cut significantly, and that was done, I think, with a recognition that we weren't. The campus is closed to the public. We've in the fall and again in the spring, we've had basically full enrollment, and Middlebury has been very careful about how they've done that, very intentional, opening the campus in phases. But with the recognition that there would be no visitors to campus, and the museum was not going to be open to the public, our budget was noticeably cut. So which is, in my mind, fine. Okay, we're not bringing in exhibitions, we're not paying loan fees or shipping things for the most part. So, and of course, the first thing they did was they cut out all of our food and travel budgets. So that was a noticeable part of the reduction. But I just found out today, I was trying to, we have a number of endowments that spin off money, and some of them, the expenditure side we can carry forward year to year. And I was trying to get an update on a public art maintenance fund because we have this new Oracle finance system we've had for about 18 months, and it's terrible. If anybody's looking to get Oracle, run screaming in the other direction. Horrible product. I can't even see transaction level data. So trying to get a report on this, and then to come to, the word came back, oh yeah, that fund that had 150,000 in it was swept at the end of the year for budget relieving. Like, no one told me that. So 150 grand just flies out the window without any warning. If I had known that, I would have spent it on a number of things. Wow. So, there are some decisions like that happening, definitely budgets being cut, but so far it's not killing the operation.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Terry, do you have any questions for anyone in the room, or something you'd like to share?
I just wanted to say that I did teach a section of the Asian Art History Survey course online. And I thought to myself, this is not going to work. They can't get into the museums, the local museums, or even to go to Philadelphia, particularly at that time in the fall. What I was surprised is a couple of the students, reported experiences of wonder, even looking at art online. And that really surprised me. So I just passed that along.
Yeah. I am fascinated to see how these platforms develop. For us, we use Kunstmatrix for our virtual exhibit design platform. What do you use, Doug?
Well, let's see. Most of what we're doing online, we've used one of the first things we did when COVID hit was we had a couple staff members create this thing called Vermont Art Online, and what they did was they invited Vermont galleries and museums and libraries to basically go into their spaces and do a 360-degree photosphere through Google, and then they built out these 360-degree virtual tours, and they paired that with ThingLink, which has been a useful platform for augmenting that kind of 360-degree. So you can zoom into and get more information about various pieces of art that you see in the 360-degree tour. We also we had one exhibition that had just been filmed through Matterport, and so we put that online. But as far as I've been trying to get my staff to do project management for years, and no one wants to do it. So it's all been through email, the planning for exhibitions, and so we haven't yet developed or landed upon a great solution. I'll be interested to take a look at yours to see how that works.
Yeah, you could, please do. You can find us by just going to www.snhu.edu/art. And you have to we're not right at the top of the search engine, but if you go down a little bit, you'll see us, and you'll be able to get to the links that bring you to the virtual exhibit and our webinars and podcasts. Yeah, so I'd love to get feedback from colleagues on what they think of it. That'd be great. Kathy,
and we're doing our online exhibits in WordPress.
Okay.
There's just a couple that are up and available now, but as I said, Caroline is working away on them diligently, and we're addressing copyright concerns for several before we feel like we can launch those.
Yeah.
Now that's one of the challenges is that I have. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
One of the challenges that we have, and this is me speaking, who is not the most computer savvy, but I have two staff members, and one of them is older, and the physical world is, boy, I mean, he can do anything in the physical world, and he does SketchUp and graphic design, but getting him involved with the WordPress and the online is difficult compared to our 25-year-old staff member who's never known any other world and just rapidly turns out online products. So that's been a challenge, is having staff ready in the digital realm to create those exhibits. But I mean, we're getting through it, but
yeah.
Kathy, I would recommend you look into Elementor, which is it's basically it's a platform that allows you to create for WordPress without any code.
Really? All right.
And from what I've seen, you'd be surprised what you can do with it. So I would definitely look into that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. As I said, I've got one person who is very fluid with WordPress and another. So thank you.
Yeah, the capacity for doing these things, because what I'm hearing everyone say is there are capacity issues in terms of addressing this virtual experience. Provide what we call them online resources. That's what we are calling them, because we know that we will have to do this moving forward forever. We've done a really good, I think we've done a really outstanding job with them. And we've archived everything in the university library where we have a site in the library. But the capacity problem is real, to be able to think of doing in-person work and also maintaining online, keeping online resources going. And one thing I wanted to share about SNHU is one part of their business model is looking at ways in which to utilize the resources within the university more efficiently, so that they're looking at redundancies that need to be taken out. They're looking at ways in which one department can support another department. So for instance, we have a graphic design degree program and a game design degree program, and those students are perfectly poised to create virtual exhibits. You know, it's not rocket science, these things, and especially if you're already purchasing a platform to create them. But so my point is that if you're looking at all the different resources, and if the business model of the institution is one where they are requiring that everyone look at the resources there in order to mitigate costs, what it also does is it mitigates silos that happen within an institution too. So there isn't this protection of, we only do this in our department, we don't step out of it and do it for your department, which is a serious capacity problem and a serious financial problem. So it's going to take time for our institution to build out this new model. It's not, they have a 3 to 5 year plan, essentially. So anybody else want to share some more stuff? Hello, you want to talk about vaccines? And
Just a side note, we'll be bringing everyone back to the main room in less than a minute.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I was just going to say, in regard to that, I mean, we're trying to do it in a different way too. Is like, we're addressing alt text for accessibility. And, you know, I can't find anybody who's willing to sort of take that on for the university or for the libraries as a whole. It should be in one place, you know, for the training and how to handle it, instead of everybody trying to figure it out on their own. There are a lot of.
Oops, I think we're all coming back to the main room.
Could be, yeah. We've been trying to do captioning for videos, and we're trying to get the college to designate resources for this, so that, because it can be expensive if it's done right, and time consuming. And so the college has a big push for DEAI, but they need to support this kind of thing.
Exactly.
And they've been so far hesitant to do that.
Right.
We just started working with a department at SNHU called the Knowledge, I forget what the full name is, but basically what they do is they work with all the different departments, whether it's academic departments or staff departments, and they gather the knowledge of what they do, so that if someone in another area of the university needs to access their resources, so in our case, it would be accessing our permanent collection or our virtual exhibits, we meet with them and we explain what we do, and we help them create documents and create an org chart kind of thing, so they would know how to reach out to people.
That's great.
So it looks like everybody's coming back.
Yes, indeed. Did you guys have a good conversation, Debbie, in the main room?
We did, yeah, we did. It's really fascinating to learn how all these different institutions are doing. There's no one model, right? There's a lot of different solutions to similar problems.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like people are slowly coming back in. Hi, Juliet.
Hi.
Does anyone want to share about what you talked about in your group, or highlights of your discussion? You can just raise a hand, I think, or something. Oh, Beth. Beth, where are you?
Hi, I'm at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign at a World Cultures Museum, and my group, I think we were group one. We just had a lot of fun knowing that we weren't alone and hearing from people who aren't the colleagues we already talked to, and that we're just trying our best. And our audiences have been generous with the experimenting that we've been able to do. And we're all feeling very uncertain about what fall will look like. And we talked about how it's okay to leave a gallery blank sometimes, won't end the world. And maybe we can use that space for something other than an exhibit for a couple months. That's okay too. And we're grateful for the students we get to serve and get to work with. And we're grateful for this opportunity to talk with other colleagues too.
That's great. Thank you. Anyone else want to share?
I might share a couple things from my group, but ask my group members to pipe in too. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it follows really nicely with what Beth said. We had group 4, we had a really animated conversation, a really hopeful and positive conversation. And it connected with this idea of space too, and thinking about how we use our space, how we've traditionally used our space, and if those are the same best ways to use our space after the pandemic. So for example, John was saying what huge audiences they've been getting for some of their programs, 400 people at a program, and their lecture hall only fits 40. So do you need to do those programs in person, or do you use your in-person time for a different kind of engagement and continue to do things online to have that greater audience? Do we think more about gathering spaces and social spaces, and what else do students need from our museums when we come back that perhaps we can prioritize in different ways? And then we also talked about engaging students. And so our student staff haven't been having to sit at the front desk so much, thinking of creative projects for them and realizing that they're more engaged and more connected to the work that we do as an organization in some ways. And are there ways to keep that going? So I love the positive sort of creativity and things we might want to hold on to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Dina, do you want to say something? Where are you, Dina?
I'm right here. I am a grad student with Johns Hopkins, and I'm interested in looking into ways to increase faculty engagement with collections through object-based learning, and particularly for transdisciplinary discussions. If anybody is willing to share your insights with me, I'd love to talk to you.
Is anybody in the room that could give a shout out to Dina?
Or send your email to me if you want to do it privately. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, or you can do it in the chat if you want to. If you want to share ideas in the chat, that's great too.
Thank you so much.
And I'm gonna just take this second to connect William Hyatt, I think is how you say William's name, who was in my group, with Robert Sarnio, who I see who's on the call. So you guys should connect with each other. I didn't know Robert was here, or I would have mentioned it earlier, William, because you both have historic houses and you would enjoy each other.
I will find William. Thanks, Carey.
You're welcome.
That Sarnio character always hiding out.
Dan, you want to share about were you in the same group with Carey or a different group?
I was in a different group. Hey, you've heard some of it, but you started out talking about reevaluation. And I think one of the big things we talked about was, first off, most of our group wasn't even open yet, or was open very modestly, with maybe 8 people allowed in, that kind of thing. But we talked about the virtual work that we've been doing, whether it's lectures, tours, the variety of equipment and materials, and actually how we want to retain some of that, because of that we've learned those skills in a way we never really had time for maybe. I mentioned that between all of us, probably on this call, the number of artist talks or other things, it's quite an archive. That we would have artists come in and lecture and we did not record them. didn't really have the money in the setup. Well, Zoom wasn't quite this readily easily used in a way. Now we know about it. There's so many ways, or Facebook Live, Instagram Live. There's so many different places I've been active in watching as well as using. And I think that was one of the big takeaways was that. The other thing is just, the unknown that was talked about when's this going to change? How can we do it? And how does it affect us? For our institution, the attendance numbers are way down. We are actually open with restrictions of numbers with, 15,000 square feet to wander through. So it's a pretty good size. And the low attendance has meant there's been no problems at all. Have to wear masks, there's sanitation, there's all sorts of things that we've done to make sure it's safe. And actually it's a good time to come, though we don't have benches out anymore. I mean, that kind of thing. We talked about, I'm at the LSU Museum of Art in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
We did talk about the use of electronic newsletters. One of our people on the call actually had an 80% budget cut and has gone virtual and electronic for everything. And I don't know about you, that sounds horrible. I mean, 80%, how would you survive? Another one did storefront to view exhibitions, realized you had to come in for them, but they were first to have storefronts. They started to do exhibitions either outdoors or actually in the storefront, and they've had great effect with it. Some of this actually was John Spiak at Grand Central Art Center, and he did a whole series of things where they did singing telegrams. He had the one about the project of the installation of the people that ran for president and didn't win, Nina Kachaturian, Monument to the Unelected, and that got incredible press everywhere. I mean, I don't know about you, I saw it. It was in Forbes, other places. So there's been a lot of different ways of working, but it's all the way to when places are just barely surviving with one or two people to being able to pivot, to use the word that was said before, to do those kind of external and different sorts of things. And again, I think the skill sets and the challenges should remain with us because they're going to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's definitely a good economic model to handle what we anticipate will be tight budgets down the road. Anyone else want to talk about what they shared in their group?
Debbie, in our group, you talked a bit about how you're employing students and what sort of opportunities you're being able to give them. I'd be interested to hear from other folks, how students are fitting into their operations at the moment.
I can respond to that. My staff did not feel comfortable having interns. I mean, we're staggered and we only have one person in the office at a time. And so the only student opportunities are gallery guard. We're open just to the campus community. So we're still able to hire our gallery guards, but that's it.
Oh, well, let me elaborate on what Doug was pointing out, because what I was sharing was at SNHU, what the new business model is going to look like is how do departments, whether they're academic departments or what we call service departments, how they can interact with interoperability is the term that they use. How do they operate within one another so that it can reduce redundancies of particular jobs in the university, which would mitigate cost, and just by also reducing use of outside vendors. So for instance, I was explaining that our graphic design program and our game design program are a perfect example of a group of people that could continue doing the virtual exhibits that we do, that can be a resource for us while we do face-to-face exhibits. But the business model itself is one where they're looking at all the different resources within the university and how they can serve one another rather than be siloed separately. So that's what I was explaining.
A good example of that, how the university can merge that direction. I mean, Arizona State University went through that when I was there some 10 years ago when Michael Crow came, and he did that with a bunch of departments, which was very controversial at the time. But that campus now is one of the most collaborative campuses I've ever been on, where everybody just feels like you can go across campus and you can use resources and you can connect, and everybody seems to be open to that process in a very positive way, in very successful manner. So it might be, you know, if you're not already looking at Arizona State University, you should, because it's a really interesting model for that.
Oh yeah, well, Southern New Hampshire University is well beyond looking at things. They've already built it. It's already being implemented. But I do think that I have found professionally that it's very frustrating to work in environments where departments are so siloed and they're so protective of what they do. And it does create a capacity problem. It creates a budgetary problem. And I do think that this, moving forward, I do feel confident that SNHU has chosen the right path to deal with all of the essential budget cuts that we're all feeling right now. So
I'm going to go away from this today with interoperability in my mind.
yes, that's a great word. Yes, yes. We have other ones too. Solutioning, visioning.
Anything we can use the pandemic for an excuse to stop doing that we felt were getting us down before. Now's the time.
We might need a pandemic dictionary. What do you think about that? Or Pictionary? Our favorite terms, how would we play them out? Well, I think we're coming to the end of our time. Do you want to close it up for us, Juliet?
Sure. Just thank you again all so much. It's so wonderful to know that here we are a year into this and there's still so much generative dialogue. It's because we're all so passionate about what we do. That's what brought us here in the first place, and that's what's going to propel our institutions forward. Thank you for being here. Thank you for moderating, Carey and Debbie, and just wish you all the best until next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for attending. Have a good evening.
We'll do it again in a couple months. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Great to see